to our Morning Throners podcast. I'm Nelson.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Glow.
And I'm Kyle.
And we're the fucking Morning Throners. Welcome back to another episode of your favorite Game of Thrones podcast. We're the boys. We're talking John 8. John 8, just John and a bunch of boys. You know what I mean? So you got the boys here talking about them. And I thought it was good. Good little chapter. Not a whole lot of action, just some cool characters. You know, Aemon's always going to be, I think, old fuck. We learn a little bit more about him.
I think this is kind of where he becomes cool, right?
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
you start getting more interesting information from him and shit. Yeah, and he's such a sad
and the
story.
old bear. The old bear's a good guy.
What did you say, Kyle?
I said Aemon's got a past.
So did
Like,
you
that's for sure.
know that from your prior knowledge of the show?
No, I didn't know he was a Targaryen.
Just the fact that he it's obviously I didn't expect you to know it, but the name Aemon is kind of like a Targaryen name, like the Targaryens, like Dany.
That's hard.
Aemon,
That's hard to say. All these names are fucking weird.
I'm a little concerned that John didn't know that though. Like, oh, his name's Aemon. Duh, he's a Targaryen.
Like, I don't expect Kyle to know that, but I think like most people in the world would be like, that's a weird name for somebody that's not a Targaryen.
It isn't. It isn't.
I don't know,
Like,
because dude, there was Aegons
You know
and
an Aemon in real
Aemons
life?
named in
Yeah.
That's true.
I guarantee you, he's not a Targaryen.
Well, there's Frey's named after Aemon. Or Aegon, the first conqueror. There's a Frey named Aegon Frey who's named after the conqueror. So I guess you're right. Like people,
Yeah,
and people say
you
that like
can't.
before, right? Like Ned's first son is named Robb. First son Robb, legitimate son Robb, named after probably his friend Robert Baratheon the King,
I would assume so. Yeah,
right?
Hey, wait.
And his other son John
John Aaron,
is from probably John Aaron, right? His first two
And then
kids are named after
you
his
got
two most like loyal
Brandon,
friends.
his brother, for
Named
Bran.
as like a Stark family. Exactly. I'm just saying like it's not always that. The Brandon thing is like families choose names within their family like repetitively a lot, right? But it's also a thing where you name somebody, which is why I'm saying this
You
is a
honor the
Targaryen
king.
name, but you also honor other people by
What were you gonna say, Cal?
I don't know.
All right, so we start off with John up in the New Hands Tower, which is
the King's Tower.
the King's Tower, because they had to move it because of the recent fire.
Yes.
So
Doing some remodeling.
So they just start talking, right? John kind of is talking about how he's kind of fucked up. His hand is burned, and is that the first thing? Like he just asks him how he's doing.
Mormont wants to know when it's going to be better too. He's like,
First off, the Raven does not shut up this chapter. Like I'm writing down everything this Raven says because I think even Kyle, we've all like suspected there's something weird about this Raven, and he just doesn't shut up this chapter.
he's just kind of making fun of everybody.
He's like a fucking parrot. He's a parrot. Like,
but he repeats
but
like
he's
a lot
kind
of
of being
words
a dick too, though.
Yeah,
Like,
at some points he is being a dick.
Yeah, so the first thing he asks is, he asks him if his hand is better. So what happened, just a refresher, what happened to John's hand, Kyle?
he got it all burned up, man. He got attacked by a white walker. I don't know if that's them or not. I know you said there's like a couple different things out there. Anyway,
The white.
it's just a white.
Yes.
WIGHT.
Yeah. So yeah, he got attacked by him in there, and then Ghost got him off, right? And then he like grabbed the curtains and lit the guy on fire.
When he
right?
first goes in
He
the room, it's
grabbed
pitch
a
black.
lamp.
Well, when it's first in there, it's pitch black. So he pulls the curtains down so he can
Okay,
see
yeah.
from moonlight. And then when when Lord Commander actually comes out of his room into like the common room, which is where the shit's going down, he has a lamp in his hand, and John takes that and throws it into the curtains that are on the floor, and then picks up the curtains and throws the curtains on the guy. So it's
Pretty
like
badass
if you grab the lamp and throw him at the guy, it's probably not gonna, maybe like it's hot for a second, right? But it's not gonna like destroy your hand. But he sticks his hand into like burning curtains and throws it at the guy. Yeah. So that's how his hand's all fucked up. And he said it's like bad, right? Like he describes it. He says
so there's
his
paws,
cracked red
30
skin
green
oozed
burns.
fluid, and fearsome blood blisters rose between his fingers, big as roaches. The pain was horrible. It said he still felt like his hand was aflame. He would wriggle in pain in bed. And he said the only thing that would make it feel good was sticking it in snow, which is weird, right? 'Cause if you have a burn,
crazy.
like you don't want to do that, right?
yeah. I mean,
It
for
probably
to
does.
a
No, I mean,
point,
you're not
like,
under cold water. Right?
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know about that.
but like the next day, dude, that would fucking suck.
Yeah,
It sounds like it's been a couple weeks and it still sucks.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's like an open wound that you just like keep pouring rubbing alcohol on, and I don't know, man. Like,
So,
I feel like
is this considered a second degree burn since he still has?
that's what I was gonna
that's
say
what he
too. Because third degree, you need like skin grafts and shit. Like that shit's not coming back, right?
Yeah, and like you can't feel shit.
Yeah, it's whatever
nerves are
it's
dead
bad.
and whatnot.
I mean, he said like there's like a few times throughout the chapter where he twitches his fingers or like flexes his hand, right? Like try and like
And it
get
hurts,
some back.
yeah.
Yeah, it still hurts.
I like how the Mormont though, he's like, your hand doesn't matter. We got gloves on up here.
Yeah, he's like, well, he said the scars
nobody's
won't
gonna
matter.
fucking, like,
John's like, I don't give a fuck about the scars, dude. It fucking hurts.
yeah.
Thank God, Ghost is the only one seeing me cry.
Yeah.
And then the big thing here is he gets to milk a Poppy, right? So he can sleep. I think it's pretty early, but he now has this reoccurring dream of the white attacking him. But dun dun dun, Nettie's features going on there. Goofy shit.
Yeah, he mentioned this a little bit later too, but we can talk about it now. Kyle, do you have any thoughts on this?
No, so here's something we were talking. I think we briefly talked about it before that we started recording, but there's a lot of implication and stuff going on here that I didn't understand. I didn't catch yet, I guess. Like, that's what we were talking about. You're going to have a lot to talk about in the spoilers.
Probably.
Yeah, bring it up,
Some
Kyle.
of
Let's
this,
see if
like,
we
I mean,
can
this is the first time we hear this dream, and like, it's ominous. Obviously, it means something, but I don't know that I have the information yet. Maybe I do. Maybe it has something to do with who his mom is.
We might not even have the information yet. Who knows?
Yeah, Kyle,
Okay.
you'll just have to wait and see in the spoiler section, bud.
And Kyle in 4 years when we're done all this, and he goes back.
And to be honest, Kyle, like, it could be a thing. Like, Nelson has all these theories in his head. Like, it's been so long since I read this book. Like, I forget like what the meaning of this thing is. So like, there's some shit that I put in my notes because I'm like, I'm sure this is a talking point, and then I just bring it up so that Nelson can then talk about whatever.
That's the thing too. Is like we'll bring up some stuff like we'll talk about this in the spoiler section, and I'll like say, oh, I've heard like potentially this theory or this theory. Maybe it means this. Maybe it means this. Maybe it means this. But then Glow's heard it means something else, and then we just argue. It's not like we have like answers. It's just kind of like a more
It's Nelson and Jeff argue, and I take Jeff's side.
More open discussion. Nothing's off limit.
where we don't have to be afraid. Yeah, exactly. So it's not even like we know the answer. It's just like we can talk more freely about it.
I find the sides of the fence that Nelson's very strong on, and then I immediately pick the other side just so.
It's good. That makes good podcast.
We've had some fans that are requesting a little discussion on one of my main theories in one of the upcoming episodes. We're waiting for the correct character to come around. But yeah, there's some disruption in the theories, the disagreement in the theories.
All right, so then we move on, and I think John's waiting for Mormont to tell him that his dad is a prisoner now, right? And I think Mormont thinks there's a lot of secrets. Like he
heard
knows
about
shit.
his dad. He heard about his
I was
dad.
gonna say, thought knew he was in prison, but he wants to know if his dad's alive or if he's gonna be
Any
freed.
news of the dad or sisters.
And I feel like Mormont thinks he's the only one that truly knows, right? But word is just spread like wild.
What do you mean? That
I don't think.
Well, no. So Mormont gets pissed
told
because
John this. In the last John chapter, Mormont told John that Ned was in jail. The only thing they're really keeping from John here is the thing about Rob.
Oh, okay.
That's what
Rob,
they're keeping from
and
John.
they just said like, okay, so the first thing is actually Benjen. Like, oh, they haven't found your Uncle Benjen yet. And he was like, oh, I know already. He was like, well, how the fuck do you know? Like,
how does
the
everyone
Rangers
know this?
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe it's not about Ned, but it was about Benjen. And it was just kind of like a theme, like, oh, so like everybody knows about the sword before John and shit like that.
You're right. That's definitely a theme. This chapter is like that the word just gets out, and it's kind of like, I think it's meant to reflect more than just the Night's Watch, right? It's like you can't really keep fucking secrets anywhere.
Hey, good on the guys for not telling John about the sword, though.
Oh, but the thing is, that's
Yeah,
true.
right.
They didn't. None of his friends spoiled that, but Maester Aemon's here. Like when John asks, like, "Oh, is it about my father?" And
The Raven says,
screams, "Father, father!"
Yeah.
Right? But this
I'm
is when
talking shit.
Mormont's like, "If we knew something of your father, don't you think I would have called you here at once?" But it's like, yo, you did know this shit about my brother, and you didn't call me here at once. Like that. If I'm John, I'd call him out on this right here. Like, what are you talking about? That's BS.
Doesn't John say that to himself? Like,
But that could get Sam in
like,
trouble, though.
he knows
That's
even
later
less,
on.
and this person knows
Yeah,
less.
it's a
Like,
little bit later on.
Yeah, you're probably right, Kyle. That's probably the reason he didn't, is because he didn't want to throw Sam under the bus.
Yeah.
But if I'm John, I'm like pissed off. Like, come on, I know you're kind of feeding me shit here, and it does make you think, because like, I guess like you have to assume that I guess all news that goes to the watch has to come through Sam. I guess maybe
At this
not, 'cause
point, yeah.
right. Or whoever's
Clytus is there too, but he's half blind. And again, we don't know.
Yeah.
We talked about this in the last John chapter. We don't know what like half blind means. Like, can he read? Like, is it just like he can't? He's like farsighted.
He's probably got like, yeah, I think that's what it is. Like, he's probably got like cataracts and like he needs like bifocals, but they just haven't made bifocals yet. You know what I mean?
I think they said something kind of about him in this one when he
Ghoster
sees him
Sam.
later.
Yeah, Clytus was feeding the birds, I think.
I thought he said something about him like the pink-eyed Clytus or something. I forget.
Yeah, I think it was during like when he goes to
Maybe
Amon's office.
maybe he was talking about Amon. I don't remember. When we get there, we'll see it.
The hunched pink-eyed brother. You're right, pink-eyed brother.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
does pink eye make you blind? Somebody just farted in this guy's eyes?
No, I don't think it means like that. I think his eyes might be fucked up.
His
He's
eyes
like,
are
he might have
fucked
something
up.
wrong with
He's
his
had
eyes.
conjunctivitis for so long that he just can't see anymore.
But like he has to be like able to see because he
Yeah,
climbed
just, like,
a
shapes,
ladder.
probably.
He climbed a ladder with a blind person and is now feeding ravens, right? Like he is the eyes in this ordeal.
I'm
before John
sure
gets
he
there.
can
He's
see
half blind. He
okay.
can see shadows and
I think
figures.
Amon
He
can
probably
see
just
more
can't
than-
read. He probably just can't read. You know what I mean? Like he can probably see people and tell people and
Look, I have pink eye, guys. Come on, I can't read right now.
Exactly.
all right. So the news is about Barristan suddenly getting left go of the Kingsguard. So we find out what happened to him, Kyle.
What do you mean?
Cellmate
What happened to
when
Barristan?
he bailed.
I think you actually made a prediction.
Oh, that he killed
potentially along
two
the lines of
people
this. Yeah.
and he's gone.
And he out of there.
he out.
And he gone.
I think what Mormon says here is kind of cool. The way he when
He's like,
Barristan,
no shit.
well, when
That's the
Barristan-
best part.
Well, he's not surprised by this, but when he leaves, he says, "We have white shadows in the woods, an unquiet dead stalking our halls." All right, so I assume white shadows means Barristan was Knight of the Kingsguard, right? So they wore all white, right? That's what I assume this means, because he talks about that right after Barristan like flees. So we have
Yeah,
white
man, I
shadows
think
in the
he meant-
woods.
I think he meant actually in the woods.
The thing is, they don't.
No one knows about
They
that,
haven't
though.
seen others, right? So we saw the others in the first chapter, and I could see them being described as white shadows.
Well, do you think Ned Stark wrote a letter to Mormont about what after like, yo, hey, we had to behead this dude. He fled, but he was saying he saw shit in the woods.
At the very first chapter.
Oh.
Yeah, like the very
Ned
first chapter.
He talks to Benjen about it when Robert's visit comes. And at least in the show he does that. Now I'm
No,
picturing
not in the books.
they don't. Yeah, because we don't have
I don't
a.
know.
Yeah, we don't get
I
a
don't
Ned.
remember.
The first Ned POV we get. The only Ned POV we get in Winterfell is when he's downstairs with Robert in the crypts or upstairs in the room of Cat, and that might even be a Cat one. So yeah, there's
I mean,
nowhere-
I would assume Ned would inform Mormont, like, hey, I just had to decapitate one of your dudes.
I don't
'cause he
think they
fled.
showed the conversation, but I assume like he talked to Benjen when Benjen was there. I assume they talked about the person who he beheaded from, right?
He gave him word. You both agree that he told him.
He
That's all.
got word. It doesn't matter if he's split or not. You're right. So this also thing. So when Mormont says that we have white shadows in the woods and undead stalking our halls, and a boy sits the Iron Throne, Raven chimes in again. Boy, boy, boy. So far he said what? Something. And then
Well.
father.
He said
Well,
well.
father, and then boy.
Well, father boy. He's
Well,
just
father
writing
boy.
a sentence.
If you read every seventh word,
Well, the next
keep
word is
doing that until
corn.
you read 'em all.
I
Corn.
believe.
Yeah,
Corn,
Kyle,
corn,
you're getting
corn.
it now.
Yeah, it is.
yeah,
We need to get the what's it called when there's like a
decoder ring. Rosette's
decoder
thing.
ring. But I can't think of the other. There's another word like the key to it.
The cipher.
Cipher. Maybe that's it. I think that is it.
Cipher is the word. Yeah.
Cipher.
We just don't know the cipher yet.
Size. So I mean, back to this white shadows in the woods thing. That's something decent to talk about there. Like,
Yeah, I don't think it
Do you think
matters.
he's-
I thought he was referring to Barristan because of the white. And the other thing I want to point out is George R. R. Martin. Anytime he talks, it's kind of interesting. Now that we have Night's
Kyle, keep
Watchmen
your
talking about. Yeah, keep your thought. Now that we have him talking about Night's Watchman talking about Kingsguard, but George always says like the thing that he hates in fantasy is when you have bad guys in black cloaks fighting good guys in white cloaks. Right, so he kind of throws that on his head. So we have these guys in black cloaks right now. We have these guys in white cloaks. We don't know much about the guys in white cloaks, but we know that like Sandor's one of them, and he killed a butcher's boy, right? And then we know John is the guy in the black cloak.
Jamie killed the king.
Jamie killed the king, right? So he's kind of like he purposely flips his trope on his head. And it's not necessarily like, oh, all these guys in white cloaks are bad, and all because Barristan obviously wasn't, right?
It's just because black is badass. I mean, all white's pretty badass too, but all black is dope as shit.
The thing is, you can't.
It's gotta get dirty.
Stuff that stays white doesn't stay white.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff that's all white doesn't stay all white.
These
long.
dudes are walking for months. Like, they would just,
Yeah.
how do you stay clean?
What were you gonna say, Kyle? Sorry, I cut you off.
I just assumed he was talking about the shadows being outside the wall, because like, so when they were out there, like the shit was fucked up out there. Like when they found these two dead dudes. Dead dudes.
Well, the animals were acting weird, but it's not like
everything was acting weird, and like they were freaked out, and like everybody's been on edge for a while about the other side of the wall. Like Ben's gone.
I can see both sides because like there's this saying that people say in Game of Thrones all the time, right? Like instead of like "fuck you," what do they say? They say the others take you, right? So everyone like we talked about this in a way earlier chapter. I think we're talking about an old man story. It's like one of those things where like it's a saying, but it's also like I don't know if people actually accept that these existed once. Right, because we get to this part where Mormont talks about if no one remembers, if the Night's Watch doesn't remember, he's talking about fire kills me. If the Night's Watch doesn't remember, who will? And if they don't remember that fires kills them, if they don't remember that fires kill them, then do they really accept that there's these white shadows in the forest? I guess that's why
they just had one inside.
No, he Mormont even makes a distinction here. He says white shadows in the woods and undead in our halls. Undead is different than white shadows. And my argument to Kyle is they haven't seen, no one alive in this book has seen a white shadow, the other. If you're saying those are others,
I kind of think of the whites in our world as like, imagine if we never found dinosaur fossils. Like,
but then how would anybody even ever know that
like maybe there was like a cave, like the
a caveman
pastel wall drawing.
They weren't, but if they were, I think that's what Jeff's saying. I agree with Jeff. I think you're right. It's like there's no evidence of it, but like it's so ubiquitous.
But there's stories, yeah.
It's so ubiquitous that like how could this not be real type thing? I don't know. I don't think it really matters much. I think that one line is pretty cool.
I'm kind of thinking that it could be the white shadow of some. I didn't really think too much of it because it maybe is too ambiguous. So.
I don't think it's like super important. I just thought it was like I thought it was cool how he described it, and I thought it had to do with Barristan because it was right after the Barristan thing. Is the only reason why. It's like in the same paragraph, right?
All right,
agreed.
Mormont snorted, leaving no doubt. Mormont snorted, leaving no doubt of the view of the man who would say gold cloaks after a night is honored as Barristan the Bold. We have white shadows in the woods and undead stalking our halls, and a boy sits the Iron Throne. He said in disgust,
"Boy, boy, boy,
boy, boy, boy, boy." And the reason why does Mormont care about this Barristan nonsense?
Well, I mean, it even says it right here. That's who he sent to get the message for more men,
and he trusted him as a man of honor.
Exactly. He's like. I don't know how well Mormont. It seems like Mormont knows people in King's Landing a little bit because he like makes an assumption about Pycelle in a little bit here. But it seems like he like kind of knows that Barristan's like the honorable one on the council, right? He's the one who's going to help me.
You would have think at one point he would have been the guy who made the trip down to King's Landing, like in a time of long summer, like the beginning of summer when shit's pretty much like under control, or I don't know.
Maybe I'm not sure.
Once.
He was also a high lord for a long time
before he came here. Exactly. Yeah. I'm sure he probably
that,
fought in Robert's Rebellion. I'm not sure, but I assume he probably fought on the side of the North in Robert's Rebellion.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I would have to say so. He wasn't at the wall yet, right? I mean, we don't know when Jorah did what he did.
We know it's after the 20 Atlantis port, but I don't know when that. I'd have to look into it more. Yeah, basically that's the point. Is Mormont thought that Barristan was going to be one of the key people in King's Landing who might actually listen to what they had to say.
Just to reiterate, and we're getting there in a second, but Jorah, he sold two people instead of sending them to the wall, right? Or no, they were defectors from the wall?
No, he sold people to slavery, to Tyros slaves.
But there were two defectors from the wall, right?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I forget what he was either supposed to take him to the wall because they were like rapers or something, and
okay.
I thought they like committed a crime and he was supposed to take him to the wall, but instead sold him. Yeah. But what's weird? So we're gonna get to it. So let's keep going a little bit further to get to the sword. This is when he's like, they won't tell us what they want, and John's like, yeah, you do the same to me. And then this is where we find out that John has figured. We talked about it already, but this is where John first mentions that he knows about Rob calling the banners and going south, and that it's like kind of like not sitting well with him. Right, like he wishes. It's kind of weird. He says like he knows this place is here, but he feels craven.
I think he's hunting for glory. He wants to be like damn, Rob's gonna go off to war and like be this like badass like war guy, and he's like, man, I want to be the guy in the story. John's
the fucking guy that just killed this fucking white that hasn't existed in forever. He's the main character.
To the 45 guys in Castle Black, like Rob's gonna be known across the fucking realm.
Dude, I mean, theoretically, I think you would hope John is too, right after what just happened, or at least like you.
No one's gonna believe him though. We just talked about it. They're gonna be like, dude, what the fuck are those guys smoking?
But we found out that we just sent Alistair with like some good. We're about to get there too. But we sent Alistair with some proof
with a black hand. Like it's just a hand. It's like that's what Sir Alistair.
I was thinking the same thing, Jeff.
Was it moving?
I don't know
if it's moving. It wasn't moving when Ghost brought it back. Right, because Ghost they're saying it's the hand that Ghost brought back. And then we know that wasn't moving because that was like 2 chapters before these bodies even started moving.
Right, yeah.
But who knows if that hand started moving when the fucking body started moving.
Maybe it's not. Like, if he just takes a black hand and be like, hey, this came from a guy who ended up waking up and fucking trying to kill everybody.
I assume it's
he
moving.
Did stab a dude.
He did. He stabbed a dude. He killed 5 people.
He stabbed a dude with no head is what I'm getting at.
No, the guy with no head stabbed Jeremy Riker.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and killed 4 other people first.
Yeah, he had no head and he still stabbed somebody. So there's possibility that this hand.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not saying that the hand's not couldn't move, but if it doesn't move, like.
Well, John cut the hand off Other too in the Night's Watch thing, and it was like still. John says it looks like a white snake with a black head.
No, I get it, but there's still a chance that they just take this. If it's not moving, there's no way they're looking at it and being.
I don't think.
Like,
you think Joffrey gives a shit right now?
I don't think they even send this hand if it's not moving.
Do you think Joffrey gives a shit?
Oh hell no!
If the hand's moving, fuck yeah.
Do you think? No.
If the hand is moving, anybody's gonna give a shit.
We'll see what happens when
if the hand's moving. That's a little different.
When we hear back from
I don't
Sir
think
Alistair.
so, man.
Dude, a fucking moving hand.
I think they got too much going on down there. They don't care. They don't fuck them. Fuck the North.
First off, I don't think Joffrey even understands what's really happening in King's Landing. I think he just thinks he's king.
That's a good thing.
I think he just thinks he's king and he's having a good time. You're right. There's a lot of shit going on with like the other people trying to make sure that everything's okay, like the people who are at war. But I think Joffrey's just a kid, and if he saw a fucking moving hand, he'd be like, "Holy fuck, what is this thing?"
Yeah, we'll see when we get news back.
I think
from
they would be happy
because
it's somebody attacking from the other side, their enemy.
That's true. And the only reason we think. The only reason I think this hand is moving is because when John in the last John chapter, when they go out and see all the bodies, like everyone is looking at them and they see the hand that isn't moving and they're like, oh, they're just dead bodies. Right? Like no one really thinks anything weird about it until Sam's like, oh, they didn't rot. Or something like Sam's like, there's no blood. Sam like says something weird, right? There's no blood. But before that, they're all like, oh, these are just dead bodies. And they think it's weird because the animals are acting weird. But like at that point, the Night's Watch don't even suspect whites after they see the hand. So like, why would sending that to King's Landing change anything? Unless it's moving. Yeah, I guess is why I am thinking it's moving.
I agree.
But also, if they killed the other, right? So we killed Other in the last John chapter. We find out here that they kill what is it, Jeremy Flowers or
I was wrong. Yeah,
Jafar Flowers.
They didn't capture him.
You weren't. Yeah, that's what I was going to do. They didn't capture him and Michonne him or whatever her name is. But this one is weird because they don't say that they burn this one. They just say that they cut it near to pieces.
They chop it up in pieces, yeah.
Near to pieces. So, but you have to assume at some point they did enough damage to it to get it to stop moving. And if they get the majority of it to stop moving, does the hand also stop moving? Like, that's the thing. It's like, how does this work? We don't know.
If you've got the thing at every joint, it can't move.
It's just physics.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true. Can you twist? You probably still. I don't know.
I mean, what's it gonna do? Roll? It's just gonna roll around. I mean, we really glossed over the point that Mormont doesn't tell John everything that he wants to know. So really, it was about Robb. He's out, and John's starting to feel like he should be there too, kind of.
I think that's what I think too. Yeah, I think it's like his family is at war, and he's part of that, and that's even what Aemon gets into as well. Like he feels that's his duty to be there for his family,
to help free his dad, right? Which is what Robb's goal is. Yeah, that's what I think too. But the thing that's weird is he says he still felt craven.
Because he's hiding up at the wall. He's hiding behind his duties.
I think he feels craven because he's not going to war. Yeah, and he's hiding up at the wall, like Jeff said.
He's like, okay, gotcha. Like if I was like a real member of this family, I would abandon the wall no matter what, because that's how much my family means to me, type thing. But I'm using this as an excuse because I'm afraid. It's kind of like how he's justifying this to himself.
Well, I mean, they could think like, oh yeah, they got that brother John up there. He was too scared to come to war, so he took the black. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess.
Rumors could get passed, but that takes us right into a little gift, a little Christmas gift to John.
Corn.
Yeah, Raven says corn, even though no one was really talking. And then Mormont asks him, he's like, is your hand going to be good soon?
It's about his hand again. Yeah.
He says, your hand going to be good soon? He's like, yep. He's like, good, because I got this thing. And he brings out brings out the sword. Shows him the sword. You want to describe it? One of you guys?
It's pimp. He pulls it out, and it's shiny. And it's fucking brand new, shiny, pointy, long.
Yep.
Pretty long. Not as long as ice.
It's like a mid-size SUV.
He said it's a 1.5 hand sword.
Not an Escalade, not a sedan. It's
bastard
a
sword.
Yeah, like him. Eh? So the fire though melted the handle off of it. It used to have a silver handle, but now it's got a stone. I think carved stone.
Used to have silver pommel.
Yeah. That's what I mean. The pommel, the end of the butt end of the handle.
Yeah, it's like quartz or something. It's like some white stone. Yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. I knew what I was talking about, but I didn't say it. It was the bottom part. But now, fucking white wolf.
Garnets for
fucking
eyes.
Ghost.
It is ghost.
Yeah, red ass garnet eyes, right?
Garnet's for eyes.
Garnet, yep.
Garnet, yeah. Yeah.
Grip was virgin leather.
Yeah, grip was brand new because that also got fucked up. And I forget what else.
I accidentally spoiled this. Kyle, if you were paying attention, I accidentally spoiled this for you a while ago.
I mean, I have seen this sword before.
Oh, yeah, I guess in the last season.
It's also in Big Bang Theory.
Every one of our thumbnails.
Our guy at work has a little, like, it's like the HBO one, but it's a little one that's on his desk.
Gotcha.
So I've seen it, like, and I've messed with it all the time.
That's fucked up.
You pull it in and out of the sheath.
So what's it called?
Long Claw.
Long Claw.
Do you know its
its
origin, Kyle?
I like the name.
A little lame. What?
You don't like the name? You think Ice is better?
I mean, Ice is 10 times better name.
All right, we've heard of 3 Valyrian steel swords. Ice.
Yeah, I didn't get to the blade. I did. You're right. I forgot the blade was Valyrian steel. Yeah.
So you've heard Ice,
just
Long Claw, blade. And I don't know if Sam mentions it. The name of it. The name.
He does. Heartsbane.
Yeah.
What's the best sword name?
Ice.
Out of those?
And then we know 2 more sword names. We know Needle. And Lion's Tooth, which is the sword that Arya throws in the Joffrey's sword that she throws in the river. Is Lion's
Needle.
Isn't Lion's Tooth Valyrian too?
No.
It wasn't? Oh, sorry.
No, it's just normal.
Ice or Needle is the best name?
Ice, probably.
Ice?
Needle's pretty nice. Needle's pretty on it.
Needle's good because you know the backstory. I mean, Heartsbane is a freaking badass sword name.
Yeah, but no.
Heartsbane?
It's such a fucking lifted truck name.
It's like too extra. Yeah, it's a little too extra. You're compensating for something.
My penis is too small. I'm Heartsbane.
I think you'd name your Wrangler Heartsbane.
It's like Heartsbane is like Lion's Tooth. Like, grow up, dude. You're not even a fucking lion. You are a Baratheon.
Dude,
like, why isn't it like?
You're talking about compensating. Ice is wider than a man's hand and taller than Robb is. It's not even practical.
The name is Ice. It's not like
it's not practical. It seems not practical.
The fact that he named his sword Lion's Tooth is a fucking joke. You're a stag. It should have been a stag horn.
It's not.
That's true. I mean, we didn't touch. I'm sure we talked about it in the spoiler section, but like, That's just
I don't think
more
we
of-
did.
That we didn't. That's just more of the whole Joffrey always wears red and like always does Lannister shit instead of Baratheon stuff. Just dropping hints early on. But yeah, let's move on.
Before I get pissed off.
The history, Kyle, cover the history real quick of this sword. It's not much. We just know a little bit.
So it's been in the family for quite some time, right?
About 500 years, I think he says.
Yeah. It's like his grandfather's or something. Great grandfather. Anyway, this gets passed it down to Jorah. Right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It got passed down to Jorah. So this was something I actually didn't realize until this read through. I thought Lord Mormont sent himself to the wall because of Jorah's shame.
So
We found out in this chapter that he was at the wall before the shame.
I was going to bring this up in the spoiler section.
Yeah.
Why is that a spoilers?
It's not, but I was going to bring it up.
I'm pretty sure I'd mentioned to Kyle before that. I think I'm just correcting what I told. I think I told Kyle and our viewers misinformation before, so correcting it.
Wait, so that's not true? The old bear just went.
His wife gave it to her, or his sister.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. When Jorah dishonored himself and fled, he left the sword, which is interesting because Jorah. Why did he do what he did? Right? Why did he sell those slaves? I don't know. Let's ask Kyle because I don't know if we got that yet. Jorah gives a long monologue. I think we got that ready, but I don't remember.
I don't know if we did.
I don't think we did.
I think someone else talks about it.
Okay. We'll talk about it in the spoiler section just in case we didn't yet.
Wait, so why is the old bear at the wall? I thought it was because of... Why is he there?
So I Googled it. I looked it up after this, and the only thing that we can tell is people assume that he just like thought it was time. He was like old, and he thought it was time for Jorah. Like Jorah was basically in the prime of his life. He was killing it. He won a huge tournament.
He wanted him to be the Lord.
Yeah, he's like, it's your turn. I'll go to the wall. I'm done. I've done.
That's kind of cool. That's kind of.
I like it. And I don't know if they ever say it anywhere in the books, but that's kind of like the accepted. That's what people assume.
How about that?
I don't know.
I'll take that. So Jon kind of feels weird because he always dreamed of having ice, and he kind of knows he's never going to get ice. It's not his. Even him wanting ice is kind of like stepping on Rob's toes.
He said at the end he says he feels ashamed, right, for even like wishing that he stole Rob's birth, right?
Well, because
absolutely,
if he has ice, that means something happened to Rob. Is the other side of that too?
I don't think it would be. I think a lot of other people in Jon's place, if that would happen, would jump at it and be like, fuck yeah, this is mine now. And we know kind of Jon to not do that.
He's a better dude than that.
Yeah. He's a good guy.
So Jon brings up his dream about Ned again. Mormont tells Jon the sword is payment for his life. He said it's a small payment. And Jon says, thinks to himself, he's like, I'll take the sword. But like, no matter how many swords you give me, I'm not going to forget that you're not my father, which is like kind of weird because it doesn't seem like. I mean, maybe
he doesn't say that out loud, does he?
No, he doesn't. He thinks it to himself.
I don't think he's talking about Barristan himself.
Not Barristan.
I mean, yeah, Mormont himself.
Mormont.
Where is this at?
It's after yet in his nightmare he faced it again.
He's not my father. Here you go. The thought.
Yeah.
You want
to read that?
Into his mind.
It's because like it's a family sword, right? So like this was something you would pass down to your son, and he thinks to himself like, no matter how many swords they give me, I'm not going to forget who I am.
And it's not even that,
which is I think
like,
part of the.
I think it's the other side of it too. Is like he's like this doesn't belong in my family. It belongs in your family.
But he will never have a family. Like what this sword's really going to become now is Castle Black Knight's Watch passed down.
Jon can't have kids,
because none of them are going to have kids.
I mean, I guess like the honorable thing to do would be like potentially like if Mormont's sister has a son who ends up being Lord after, then like give the sword back to him potentially type thing. I'm not sure.
Maybe
I think it's just weird how I didn't get the feeling that Mormont was trying to like replace Jorah with Jon at all, but it seems like that's kind of what Jon's getting at. But maybe it's I don't know, maybe not. I think it's more. I think this is more just playing on the fact that, like Kyle said earlier, Rob is going to save his father right now, and he feels like he's kind of abandoning his father by not joining. So he's like, I think that's why there's like a lot of mentions of Ned in this chapter, right?
Yes, for sure. He's
maybe that's why he's having dreams about it because he feels like he's abandoning him.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Him, and kind of killing him.
Yeah,
in a sense.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Glow.
There we go. We figured it out, guys.
We didn't have to do this whole section.
Well, that's it. We're done, guys. All right.
Yeah, all right, guys. It's over.
Now the best news that he gets. He says he even likes his more. He doesn't say he likes it more, but he says it's more noble a gesture. What's the best news that John gets from Mormont? It's not that he got the sword. Is that somebody's gone.
Sir Alistair is sent.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier. Alistair is fucking gone, and we got a new guy replacing him, and John is pumped.
Let's go.
So we got.
What was the last thing? I forgot. What happened in the hall?
Alistair says not only a bastard, but a traitor's bastard. And then John sprints across
John
sprints
freaked
across
out.
the table and tries to kill him.
Yeah.
Nice. Almost stabs him.
And Mormont.
That's a pretty bad temper tantrum right there.
So you missed a couple ravens in there, by the way. There's a who
The
will.
who will when he says, yeah, we skimmed over that because I kind of we touched on
Yeah, to
it.
take it.
Take it.
Yeah, when he tells John to take the sword, he's like, I can't take it.
And claw.
Did he say claw?
Yeah, after he says, what's its name?
think he does
says
say claw.
Long Claw it was called. And he said, claw. Middle of page 657.
Yep, I got it. John nodded. Does it have a name? Long claw is an apt name. Wolves have claws as much as bears, which is why I think this is a cool.
It's all right.
It's kind of like it's like simple, but it's like, oh, they do have claws. That's clever. It's not really, but it makes you feel like kind of smart. So who's the new Glow? Who's the new master at arms?
Oh, fuck. I gotta look it up.
Andrew Tarth. Is that him?
Andrew Tarth. That's it. Andrew
Tarth.
That's what I said.
Andrew?
We make this joke about Game of Thrones words all the time. Fucking
Definitely.
every name is a Game of Thrones name, right? Who the
Why
fuck
couldn't
spells
this be
Andrew
Andrew?
like this? This has got to be Andrew,
But, like,
right?
That's like
Andrew.
every joke ever.
Andrew.
Really?
Does that.
I mean, I don't read that many. I don't read that many books. I just reread these over and over
Think
again.
about Lord of the Rings.
I mean, they have weird names, but it's these
They're all
seem
different
like
races.
he just takes a name.
I mean, Joffrey. Why couldn't he just name him Jeffrey? You know what I
exactly.
mean?
He takes a
Like,
name
just
and
be
changes
normal.
like a letter. He takes Andrew and switches the A to an N. Or to
Rob
an E.
with
Makes
two
it
B's
Andrew.
It's a
instead of
different
one.
way of doing it, but it's the same idea. It's actually kind of lazy. It seems like to name.
No, I mean, I agree. I assume he did this for a lot of them, but George says that like he probably owns more baby name books than any other books in his house because he doesn't know how to name characters. So he buys like baby naming books from like a bunch of different countries and shit to try and come up with character names. We got the new guy because Alistair's gone, but why does Mormont tell John to go see him?
He's a master in arms.
Yeah, but why does
To learn how to fight with
learn how to
two hands.
fight two-handed.
So what is 1.5 for me? Like sometimes you're using one, sometimes you're using two.
Yeah, you can
Yeah,
maybe
I
go
think
from like a
it's-
slash to like a two-handed backswing type of deal.
It fits both ways work. It's not too long. You can't hold it with one hand, but it fits a second on the handle.
And I don't know if we mentioned it. We did say it was Valyrian steel, but John notes that when he picks it up, it's even though it's a half a foot longer, it's lighter
Super light.
than most swords he's used. Yep.
And that's because of Valyrian steel, right?
Yeah,
Like
that's the Valyrian steel part of it.
it's kind of cool. I just like that. Like, obviously, Valyrian steel is actually just like a Damascus weld. Like,
Well,
do you guys know about? But then there's spells to it,
well,
right?
no,
So
that's
it's not just.
well, that's like
Whoa.
that's kind of like the image of it, right? It looks like Damascus, but it
That's
isn't.
just like the history or like the stories behind Valyrian steel.
Well, yeah, but like I'm saying, like it looks like Damascus, but like Damascus is just as heavy as normal steel. Valyrian steel isn't.
So that's right. But I'm a big forged and fire
I was
guy.
gonna say, you a Forge and Fire guy?
Yeah.
I love that show. I haven't watched it in a
I
while.
only watch that show when they're making something I know, like the God of War axe or ice or something.
Dude, it's so cool. Like, that's one of it's way too like big of a hobby to just like kind of pick up. Like, say I want to go foraging.
That's one of those things where it's like you see that and then you just like want to invest like $4,000 in like blacksmithing equipment.
Absolutely.
You know
like,
what I mean?
put a forge in my backyard right now.
Exactly.
It looks like something where you can just take a block of steel and just start pounding on it and make something, and it's obviously not that easy,
Dude,
right?
the same
Like,
with glass
No, not
blowing.
at
You ever
all.
watch like glass blowing videos on
Yeah.
YouTube? I'm like, that looks like the easiest thing ever, and it looks so
and you
cool.
got
and I
like
can
the
do that.
wad of wet paper
No fucking way you could do that.
newspapers that you're like shaping it with.
Yeah, no fucking way you could do that. So we get down. John leaves the tower. And when he gets out to the bottom, all his friends are
All of his boys,
lurking,
everybody's
as
there
John
for him.
says. Not Sam.
He's almost like the hero too. Like they're like, "Hey, boy, like good job, man." Like,
well, yeah, random people are
you
like,
earned
"You
that
earned
shit,
that,
dog."
like, nice deal." Yeah. So again, this is kind of what Glow said earlier. Like everyone knows everything. Everyone already knew about the sword before John. But it is cool how they get to they keep the secret from the person that like it mattered about.
Yeah,
it's
it's good
about that.
friends.
Everything else made it around, but that, yeah, it was. They probably knew they didn't want to spoil that.
Yeah.
Commander would be a little pissed.
They like joke around, right? Like what do they say? They like Pip calls Gren dumb. Gren says he's not dumb. Like
you're
always.
dumber than me.
and then,
He said he had a really dumb comeback. Yeah.
Yeah, he said something really stupid.
that's always his comeback. Is I'm not dumb. You're dumb. And then they're like, let's see the sword. Let's see the sword. And he's like, how the fuck? John's like, how the fuck do you guys know? And they know because his friend Halder helped.
They've been
Pate.
working on different parts.
Yeah, his
Yeah.
Halder helped Pate with the pommel. Sam had to go buy the garnets, and
Maulstown.
Rudge was with Donald Noy when Mormont brought him the sword. So he shows him, and Toad tells him that he's heard of a man who had a shaving razor made of Valyrian steel, and he accidentally cut his head off while trying to shave. And Pip tells John that even though the Night's Watch is thousands of years old, you're probably the first person to ever be honored for burning down the Lord Commander's tower.
That was a great line too.
Was that Pip that says
Yeah,
that?
Pip says that. Pip, obviously,
He's got some good one-liners, man.
The tower wasn't completely destroyed, just the interior of the top two floors, probably because it's a stone
it's
tower.
pretty fucked up. Dude can't live there anymore.
Yeah. So he's gone. John also had to relocate to his old room. And then this is when they start talking about...
Which, is that a bad thing?
Probably for
Weren't they
Mormont.
holding him?
Cell or something earlier?
I thought they had him in the cell.
Well, they locked,
Not a cell,
they
but
locked
like
him in
a
his...
bad-
They didn't lock him in his room, but they had guards posted on his door. He was living right underneath the Lord Commander's tower. That way, if Lord Commander needed anything, his steward's right there to go get it. Now he's in a different
Gotcha.
tower, so potentially less convenient for Mormont, but whatever.
Samuel Tarly comes knocking on the door, all nervous.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, this is fucked because he was supposed to get Lord Mormont food, and then he just says, "Fuck you, Mormont."
I think he
I'm not
did.
getting
I
you
think they
food."
just I think they skipped over because it was boring in the chapter. Because they say
Get fucked, Mormont.
because he tells all his friends like I gotta leave to go get Mormont food,
Yeah.
and then he walks away, and then the next paragraph is when he got
He's
back
in
to his room.
chambers.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I think that's because who wants to read that was another long conversation about
Hey,
nothing.
Mullen, would you go get him some really not
make
too
sure
sweet
the
of a red?
spices and don't give me boiled mutton because the Raven didn't even like it. Like, who cares? We already heard about the stupid
Oh,
food.
he could have just said 4 words. After getting Lord Mormont food,
You're right.
John went back to his soul.
I thought it was weird too because I remember this chapter and I remember John never actually talking to Hob, who's the cook, and I was like, and then when I was taking notes like really carefully, and Mormont's like, go get me food, I'm like, I don't think he ever does that, but I think they just glance over. I'm not sure. Go ahead, Jeff. Continue.
So Sam comes in and I don't know. It's just kind of like his normal being is just nervous, but.
John's in a pissy mood, which doesn't help, right?
John's
like the
in
only
a
one that's
pissy
ever
mood,
nice to him.
and Sam knows when he brings up what John needs to do that he's gonna be now pissed at Sam.
Exactly.
So he pretty much tells him that Maester Aemon wants to see him, and he's like, "What? Like, it's not time to get my bandages changed. Like, why would he want to see me?" Light bulb. You told him that you told me.
It's not just a light bulb. You can see it on. He said it's written all over Sam's face, right? And Sam says, I didn't want to, John. He asked. I mean, I think he knew. He sees things no one sees. And John's like, he's fucking blind, dude.
He's blind. But John realizes later on what he's talking about.
Yeah, when he says like his eyes looked at him like knowingly or whatever. Yeah.
So he goes up and Maester Aemon and Clytus are feeding, which was crazy. I'm glad that they talked about it more. I forgot about this completely. They're feeding the ravens shredded meat.
Yeah,
like Luke.
Yeah.
I
have to drive 3 hours to get that meat.
Hopefully not.
I never thought, are ravens like vultures? Do they eat like in real life? Do they?
Yeah, man. They were just eating Lannisters last chapter.
Isn't that
Yeah.
Isn't that crows?
Outside the phrase, they were talking about how they were.
I thought they were crows. Yeah,
I thought crows ate bodies more. But I mean, I think
Did you
Eamon does
did you
say
read this
here.
chapter?
Yeah, he says they're both.
He talks about how they're pretty much the same fucking bird.
I get it. But I just never put two and two together. Like, really, I didn't think crows did either. But I guess crows eat eyes out all the time for like.
I think they just eat it.
You know, when you hear
I just
about
think
that
they
shit.
eat everything.
They're like the raccoons of birds. They just
carry
find whatever
on
they
means
can
you
and
eat
eat
dead
it.
animals, right?
But all right, whatever. So they're feeding him, and Clytus, the half blind guy, gets sent away, and John starts feeding it as Eamon starts talking about the birds and whatnot, right? So
John points out that Mormont's raven does not eat meat.
Yep.
Hey, he's like, oh, he eats corn and fruit.
He is a rare bird.
The maester said.
Most ravens will eat grain, but they prefer flesh. It makes them strong, and I fear they relish the taste of blood. In that they are like men, and like men, not all ravens are alike.
And John is like, what the fuck are we talking about? And then Maester Eamon keeps going on about doves.
Yeah,
Doves
and how
and
they tried to
pigeons.
train doves because they're prettier to carry messages.
Yeah. Like the more like holy people.
They're not quite as scary like a crow, and I mean he gets into that too. Like they just look like bad news too. Like
Yeah.
I don't know,
Well,
there's something very
ravens are-
ominous and
Ravens are fucking big, like big ass birds
Yeah.
too. Like they weigh like 20, 25 pounds, right? Maybe
I might
not.
have said this before too. I'm a big One Tree Hill
I have
guy.
no idea.
Huh?
Dude, if you ever see a raven like at a zoo, it's way bigger than you'd think.
All right, well, hold on. I'm a big One Tree Hill guy, and it's about high school basketball team, and their logos, or the mascots, the
Maybe
Ravens.
not.
And
1 to 4 pounds.
so one raven is like a sign of good luck, but a lot of ravens is a sign of trouble ahead. So just think about that. too.
Really? One raven's good luck? So Mormont's raven's good luck. But these ravens is bad.
well, what I'm getting at here is they look like they're like about to head to a funeral, and they're fucking black and like
Well, yeah.
scraggly. They're kind of intelligent, so they're not kind of they're very intelligent for a bird. So it's like they're scary, like because they kind of have, I don't know. There's that weird when an animal exhibits human behavior that's kind of strange, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what
No?
Eamon says. He
That
says
doesn't weird you guys out.
that's what Eamon says. He says his what, when an animal does human stuff?
Yeah,
Well, you ever read Edgar Allan Poe, bro? That shit freaks me out.
Call the raven.
that's what I'm saying.
Tap,
So like,
tap,
I
tap
mean,
at the
just
window.
ravens in general.
Yeah, they're
are
creepy.
fucking-
Yeah.
Yeah, they're always at the battlefield. Like they're a sign of death. Like, and so
What's
like,
the fourth
that's
book
why
in
they were
this,
trying to
what's
like
the
train
fourth book in this
doves
series
because
called?
A Feast for
Feast
crows,
of
not a
Crows?
Feast for ravens.
I mean, but ravens or crows are same thing.
They're the bastard cousins
Bastard
or
cousin,
whatever he said.
whatever he says. I don't remember. Cousins in black, hated and mistrusted, as Eamon says.
Oh, sorry. The crow is the raven's poor cousin. Sorry, not bastard cousin.
he kind of gets into explaining like why John. Every person at the wall has to make a big decision at some point to stay there. Like,
Well, not necessarily. Right? Like, is Gren gonna have a big ass decision?
Maybe just
Does he
because he
have any
hates being there.
The thing is, like, Gren's never, unless you're like John or Eamon, you're never gonna hear of your family again. Gren doesn't get letters from home about like his fucking peasant mom. You know what I mean? Like, they don't.
I guess you're right.
Like, who the fuck knows about once you're there? You're there. So, like, I don't think that Eamon's completely wrong in that, like, in all that there's one point where we all have to choose, right? Even if you're Gren, there's a point where you're like 35 and you're like, this is my whole life. I'm literally going to do this for the rest of my life. And like,
Yeah.
maybe that's his point to choose. It's not as dramatic as like, it doesn't have to be super
Yeah, some of them
dramatic.
have bigger
Yeah.
choices for sure. And like he's kind of explains like why they're not allowed to have any distractions. Pretty much is what's going on there. It's like you must be fully committed. You can't be adding stuff to this equation that's already like you're already going to face a tough decision. You want to add kids. You want to add a wife to that as well.
How does
and-
Maester Eamon say it?
For love is the bane of honor and the death of duty.
Great line. You'd get that tattooed on you, Nelson.
I would. I mean, it doesn't really hold up in today's day and age, but getting back to the chapter, it's weird when Eamon says that, John thinks that that's not right. Right? He like the first thought that is like John says like that doesn't sound right to him. But he thinks that the Maester's 100 years old and it's not his place to contradict him. And he asked John, what does he think Ned would do if Ned ever had to choose
which Ned does. He's sitting right on the situation right now.
He does
himself.
have to choose, yeah.
And what does Ned choose? Wait, I guess we don't know.
We don't know yet.
Well, John says he would do the right
The
thing.
right thing.
That's what he says. And I mean, I know Ned dies.
Which isn't necessarily honorable.
Yeah. No, there's definitely not a definition between honorable and the right thing. Like, the right thing could be to save your loved
That's
one.
true.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah.
John completely... I mean, that's maybe the biggest conundrum you could be in.
Well,
For sure.
That'll come up way more in the other books too, right? Is like where things that seem
Hence
honorable.
why they're not allowed to get wives and children, so they don't have to make this
This
decision.
is exactly what the point that
Yeah.
Aemon's getting at. And it's what's interesting is that Aemon tells him, I don't know exactly where it is, but he tells him that like when the Night's Watch like first started, it was basically just like everyone who was in it, which is like it's really vague on how it started, but he's like, yeah, when they first started, they all like made this agreement, like, oh, we're not going to take any wives. It was like kind of an agreement amongst themselves that we need to do this in order to perform our duties to the best, and that like it seemed almost that like after doing that for like some period of time that they made it a requirement, right? It was like the first group of people were just like, this is a good idea, and then it was like a good idea for so long that they're like, yeah, you know what, this should actually be a requirement to get here.
I mean, could you just imagine if they didn't make it a requirement and people were just bailing left and right whenever something hit the fan?
When read Jeff, it says we'll just read little bits of it. The men who formed the Night's Watch.
The men who formed the Night's Watch knew that only their courage shielded the realm from the darkness to the north. They knew they must have no divided loyalties to weaken their resolve. So they vowed they would have no wives nor children. Yet brothers they had, and sisters. Mothers who gave them birth, fathers who gave them names. They came from 100 quarrelsome kingdoms, and they knew times may change, but men do not. So they pledged as well that the Night's Watch would take no part in the battles of the realms it guarded.
And I mean, this makes sense because like if they all just left whenever something went down at home, like they'd all be leaving.
Well,
Nobody would be there.
We've only really heard about the like similar vows in one other organization. Kyle, we compared the Night's Watch to this organization earlier. Barris and Selmy.
I was going to say the King's Guard, but I wasn't sure.
So they're not allowed to have wives or
same thing.
children, right? So it's basically the same thing, and I assume
What
it's
about Jamie?
I assume it's for the same reason. Well,
Same
Jamie
thing.
doesn't have a wife or children.
He has a child.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but no one knows that.
A couple, right?
Yeah, but no one knows that.
Yeah. They're all his, right? Let's go back there. Joffrey and the rest of them are his too,
They're all
right?
blonde haired. They are. Ned says
Deceit
that.
is strong,
Ned says that
Kyle.
to Cersei, and Cersei says yes. I'm pretty sure Cersei already admitted that.
I mean, I was like 90%.
Yeah, I think Cersei said that already. Sometimes it's hard for me to remember like what has been said or not, but I'm pretty sure she admitted that.
No, she did.
It's all right.
She said that like all of the kids are like she was like, oh yeah, there was other ways I knew how to finish him off instead of inside me type of shit.
Okay.
So next, Aemon gives an example, and without looking, do you guys remember this example? Kyle, you're not going to know it. This is not a spoiler. This is prehistory. This is stuff from like world books that like we're probably not going to find out in these books anyway. I feel fine telling you. When Aegon the Conqueror came over,
Black Heron.
he literally there's just Harrenhal. I don't know if we heard of Harrenhal yet.
Yeah, because Littlefinger is promised.
Yeah, Tywin's near
Janos
there, and
was-
that's where the tournament we heard about in the last Ned chapter was. When Aegon came, this castle had just been created. It was literally the largest castle, like by far the largest castle in Westeros, and he thinks it's like unstoppable. And Aegon is like, "Hey, I'm going to take over these 7 kingdoms." And some people bow to him, and some people defy him. Harren the Black lives in Harrenhal, and he defies him. And Aegon goes up above the clouds and comes down and says, "Your high walls won't stop dragons," and he just roasts the entire thing. Really, literally just burns the entire castle. So, and like they say that the towers melted like candles and shit like that. So this is, and the thing that Aemon says is when Aegon slew Black Heron and claimed his kingdom, Heron's brother was Lord Commander on the Wall with 10,000 swords to hand, and he did not march, which is like kind of crazy because like if you
That's an army
Aegon,
back then too.
He didn't kill Black Heron. He killed Black Heron and all of Black Heron's children because he roasted
and everybody in the castle.
Everyone in the castle. And his brother's like, you can look at it the way Eamon's looking at it, where his brother's like, oh, he kept his vow. Or you can look at it the way that I would look at it if I was Black Heron's brother, where it's like, yeah, fuck that. That guy's got dragons. I'm going to stay fucking up here.
That's because you're a pussy.
Right?
Yeah, don't drag me. Yeah, I'm good.
Nelson,
I'm protecting us. Do not burn my wall down.
If you could put a picture of in the dictionary next to Craven, it's Nelson.
No way.
You just said it yourself. Like,
I'm brave as fuck.
Like,
that's just smart. That'd be a picture next to smart.
Yeah, what are you gonna do about a dragon?
Craven.
You got dragons, Jeff?
There's other ways other than fighting.
You'd fuck him, wouldn't you?
Poison.
Yeah. You could always bend the knee and just take
Isn't
over
that
as Lord of
Craven?
Harrenhal.
The same idea?
No, sometimes you have to run the fight. We talked about this last
Craven
time.
to me.
All right, let's start the quote. Let's start the rest of the quote here. I think we can read the rest.
A craven can be as brave as any man when there is nothing to fear, and we all do our duty when there is no cost to it. How easy it seems then to walk the path of honor. Yet soon or late in every man's life comes a day when it is not easy, a day when he must choose.
Some of the ravens were still eating, long stringy bits of meat dangling from their beaks. The rest seemed to be watching him. John could feel the weight of all those tiny black eyes.
And this is my day. Is that what you're saying?
Maester Aemon turned his head and looked at him with those dead white eyes. It was as if he were seeing right into his heart. John felt naked and exposed. He took the bucket in both hands and flung the rest of the slops through the bars. Strings of meat and blood flew everywhere, scattering the ravens. They took to the air, shrieking wildly. The quicker birds snatched morsels on the wing and gulped them down greedily. John let the empty bucket clang to the floor. The old man laid a withered, spotted hand on his shoulder.
It hurts, boy,
He said softly.
Oh yes, choosing. It has always hurt, and always will. I know.
You don't know.
John said bitterly.
No one knows. Even if I am his bastard, he's still my father.
Maester Aemon sighed.
Have you heard nothing I've told you, John? Do you think you are the first?
He shook his ancient head, a gesture weary beyond words.
3 times the gods saw fit to test my vows. Once when I was a boy, once in the fullness of my manhood, and once when I had grown old. By then my strength was fled, my eyes grown dim, yet that last choice was as cruel as the first. My ravens would bring the news from the south, words darker than wings, the ruin of my house, the death of my kin, disgrace and desolation. What could I have done? Old, blind, frail? I was helpless as a suckling babe, yet still it grieved me to sit forgotten as they cut down my brother's poor grandson and his son, and even the little children.
John was shocked to see the shine of tears in the old man's eyes.
Who are you?
He asked quietly, almost in dread. A toothless smile quivered on the ancient lips.
Only a maester of the citadel, bound in service to Castle Black in the night's watch. In my order we put aside our house names when we take our vows and don the collar.
The old man touched the maester's chain that hung loosely around his thin, fleshless neck.
My father was Makar, the first of his name, and my brother Aegon reigned after him in my stead. My grandfather named me for Prince Aemon the Dragon Knight, who was his uncle or his father, depending on which tale you believe. Aemon, he called me.
Aemon? Targaryen?
John could scarcely believe it.
Once.
The old man said.
Once. So you see, John, I do know. And knowing, I will not tell you stay or go. You must make that choice yourself, and live with it all the rest of your days, as I have.
His voice fell to a whisper.
As I have.
So, Kyle, so he says 3 times he was tested. I assume you only know the last one.
Yeah, that was what I was. When we reread it just there, I was like, "Oh, does he say it?" I only remember the one, and he doesn't.
Yeah, I think you probably only know the last one because he gets into it where they killed basically all his family.
Yeah, well, that's the one we've been hearing about the whole time. That's a Kingslayer and all that. Yeah.
Do you think he regrets it based on these last few words? As I have.
Regrets what?
His choice to not eat. So I
don't think he regrets it. I think it's just bullshit.
Well, he tells John, "I'm not going to tell you to stay or go. You're going to have to make your choice and live with it as I have." And he's the way that he repeats it, it makes me sound. To me, it sounds like there's regret, right?
It might be a little bit, but I think he knows better. Like kind of like what you're saying. Like he's holding the line. I'm gonna fucking stay here because what am I gonna do? Like I am no help anyway. There's dragons down there. What am I gonna do?
I really like this whole thing with Mr. Aemon. I think he's a really good mentor for Jon.
Yeah, he seems like a good dude so far, and I mean we've heard bad things about Targaryens to some degree. So
I mean, we've only really seen Dany and her brother, and it's about 50-50.
When the Mad King, or no, that was
and we've heard of the Mad King. We haven't seen him.
King.
We've heard some fucked up shit that guy did.
Yeah,
And Rhaegar raped.
Yeah, Rhaegar raped Lyanna, kidnapped her.
yeah. So I mean, we've heard some bad things about Targaryen. So he seems okay.
Yeah,
That's what I was. He doesn't seem like he's going to be bad yet.
There's a bunch of little weird one line interesting things about the history here. Like he's saying I was named for Aegon the Dragon Knight, who was named after his or who was his father or his uncle, depending on who you believe, right? So like even Aemon, who's a lineage of this family, isn't sure like the above lineage of the family. I don't know. I love Aemon. I think I like the old. I like wise people. And Aemon's just a goat.
Yeah, he seems like he's pretty all right too for being an old dude. Just trying to help. He didn't want to push. He wasn't telling him what to do, but he's like, look, you got to decide. Like you have to make a very important decision.
You have a decision here, bro.
And you have to be sure you can live with whatever decision you make.
Yeah.
Which I think Jon's gonna stay on the wall. That's my prediction, and I think he should. I think that's the right decision.
Okay.
All right, straight into Kyle's predictions.
Well, I mean, while we're talking about it,
Yeah.
might as well.
I like
I mean,
it,
it's
Kyle.
really.
I like
I
it.
mean, that's what is left. Like, what's Jon gonna do?
Yeah.
So
I like I said, I think he should. I think that is the right decision. So
I mean, especially with everything
I'm
that just happened.
kind of hoping that's what's that.
Especially with some of the stuff that just happened, right? Like he just got honored by the head of the Night's Watch
Yeah.
with a family sword, and then he's gonna dip and go help his family.
Well, he knows there's shit happening
sometimes
up here
you
too.
gotta go see about a girl.
And his uncle, who he looked up to big time.
Yeah, exactly. There's
is
stuff
missing still.
Yeah, unfinished. There's a little bit unfinished up here for Jon. I don't think he's super married to it, but yeah, good prediction. I don't know if there's not really many other predictions we can make. Both others were taken care of, or both whites were taken care of. It's pretty open-ended. Like if I say what's going to happen in the next Jon chapter, I doubt you have much to go with besides.
Yeah, they didn't.
He stays in a wall. It's not really leading into anything. This might even be the last one of the book. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm actually looking for that right now.
That'd be bullshit.
I think we get one more.
That'd be bullshit.
Yeah, they didn't wrap up everything here.
If I can just think of the storyline, I would think Jon has one more probably.
That's what I was thinking too, but it might be
and
next to the first book.
If Kyle wasn't here, I would say it.
We'll say it in a few minutes.
Yeah, he has at least one more.
Cool.
All right, let's wrap things up.
See you later, Cal. It's great hanging out, bud. We'll see you on the next episode for Daenerys 9.
Is it Danny 9?
Danny something.
I don't know. Danny
All
something.
right. Later, guys.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
See you later, Kyle. It was great hanging out, bud. We'll see you on the next episode
Bye,
for
Kyle.
Danny 7. And now, on to the spoiler sections for Jon 8.
Bang
Boys,
bang! Dun dun!
what are your hot takes for this episode?
All right, guys. This is Nelson from editing. Something happened. I fucked up. So this was one of our longer spoiler sections because we did have a lot to talk about, but somehow my recording got deleted. So all I have is Jeff and Glows. Because we had a good conversation, it's not as good when you redo it. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to edit in anything that they talked about, any responses they had to me, any big topics they brought up, and try and just kind of record in what I did, right? It's not going to be perfect. I'm going to be editing out a lot. It's not going to sound like a fluid conversation, but you'll get our first reactions to all this stuff. And I'll make sure that all the important topics are covered. Sorry again. Hope you enjoy. So throughout this spoiler section, I'll just be breaking the fourth wall almost the entire time, talking directly to you guys and setting up the point I was making the first time as best I can tell from Glow and Jeff's reactions. And then I'll play their reactions so you guys can hear what they said. So one of the first things I brought up was this was kind of more of a joke because I know that Danny gets burned later in the dragon pits, but just to push Glow's buttons a little bit on the John, on the theory that I have that Jon's not a Targaryen, I bring up look how bad Jon's burn is here. His hands are so banged up after grabbing the oilcloth, right? And here's Jeff and Glow's response.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
Targaryens are not fireproof. Going off of Nelson being wrong, Nelson believes that Jon fake heard Ghost in the very beginning of the first chapter or second chapter. He fake heard it. Well, now we have confirmation that he did not fake hear him. He remembers.
Yeah, this one I concede. I knew I didn't. It's not something I was like had a strong stance on. I kind of just wanted to bring it up when we read that first chapter. I didn't remember this passage exactly where Jon reflects on actually hearing him. So yep, I concede.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we can put that to bed. Wait, is there anything with Ned being the face in the dream other than?
Yeah, I think my answer is right.
Yeah, I'll take that. So the first one I had other than the dream is this raven that Mormont has is so fucking annoying. Why is he keeping up? Why do you keep him? So, and then it goes into the bird is rare. Like, oh, that's a rare bird. Like, what the fuck's up with this fucking bird, man?
So for Mormont's Raven, obviously huge mystery. I think I 100% agree. There's definitely something important here. I have a whole special page in my notes for Mormont's Raven where I've write down every single passage where he mentions something. So we'll always be able to go back and cross-reference everything he says. He talks a lot of important points, right? Right before Jon kills the wolf, or the white, he's kind of the reason Jon even comes up. But the most important thing the Raven is ever involved in is the election. Do you remember, like, during the election, anything special about the kettle?
Don't they, like, put their votes in the thing?
Yeah, but the Raven is in it too. So, like, obviously, like, even if this Raven's special, like, even if you think, like, this Raven's being warded by Blood Raven or whatever, right? There's a Children of the Forest that lives inside. Who knows? You got to admit that this Raven couldn't get into the kettle by itself during the election, and it did. And when it comes out, it like screams snow, snow, snow. So it's a huge factor. Like the most obvious influence it has in the entire books is when Jon Snow gets elected and it gets put in that kettle, and it didn't get there by itself.
Somebody put him in there. If he's not special, one, like in general, but to Mormont, like he's got to be doing something to Mormont. Kill that fucking bird, or like.
I think he's definitely influencing Mormont's decisions at some points too.
Yeah, I think the biggest theory on Mormont's Raven is that Blood Raven is having something to do with it, right?
I don't think that. I think it's a person. I think it's an old Lord Commander, or it's
that's
like.
An interesting thought, Jeff.
I
I actually had never thought about that. I don't think I've even seen that anywhere. But to what Glow said, like either way, he's definitely influencing things. One of the biggest examples of it is when they go to the Fist of the First Men. Before they go, I think it's probably in a chapter coming up. Mormont is talking about himself, and probably in Jon's next chapter, talking about himself, and he described himself as old and strong. And then the Raven echoes old and strong, old and strong. It's something that the Raven says. Well, when they get to the Fist of the First Men, they decide to stop there because, or maybe it's like while they're planning to go to the Fist of the First Men, the Raven screams old strong, because it's like an old strong fortification, just like Mormont's old and strong. So there's thoughts that, yeah, that's why they stopped there.
So they find the daggers and whatnot. Maybe. I wouldn't put it past that. Like I'm saying, I think this Raven has influence for sure. I hate, double hate, loathe entirely.
What? How Blood Raven?
Do anything he wants. Yes. I fucking hate that. And that was a little Grinch line. It was a little shout out to Christmas. I mean, and I'll take it. Like at least there's like we've brought up the dream candles or whatever the fuck they're called. Like if it's the Maesters versus Blood Raven in this battle, at least there's two sides. But if it's like the show when it's just Blood Raven is fucking Blood Raven, I can't do that. I can't do it, man. I'm gonna not like it at the end of the day. It just doesn't make any sense if one person is controlling the whole story. There's so many people in this realm for it to all just come back to one. There's so many storylines. Just think about that. And like, oh, no, this guy's the only one that matters. I just can't agree with it. I can't do it.
So, Jeff, to your point, I think it is two sides. So I don't know if Blood Raven's on the good side or the bad side.
Only two? What about the Maesters?
I think the Maesters are going to be on.
I hope it's more than 2. I hope the Faceless Men are in it, too.
I think there's 2 because there's Rollor and then there's the Great Other. And there's basically 2 sides.
Yeah, I don't know. I think those are definitely 2 superpowers, Glow, and it seems like the trick about the Maesters and the Faceless Men is they like, sure, they seem like superpowers, but could the Maesters be being like mind controlled by Bloodraven? You know, like could he just be like a puppeting another puppet type deal? So it's hard to tell. But yeah, I'm kind of with Jeff. I hope it's more than just 2. And I think it is based on like how George R. R. Martin has says he doesn't like white versus black, good versus bad type thing, just all more gray conflict. Yeah.
Are we moving off the Raven? I've got some notes from still the Mormont and John conversation. There's a point when Aemon is talking to John, and they mention that all of the Ravens are watching John. Now, all the Black Eyes. So it could definitely be like he has the food, obviously, like they're waiting for the food. But come on, that's Bloodraven, right? He's watching them.
I could see it, yeah.
Like it just
like he saw the food in his hand then?
He had the bucket, like, but it like clearly stated like these 2 are talking, and they were like, oh yeah, and all of the Ravens are watching John. Like, I don't think it needed to be said there.
I was thinking that too. Yeah.
And I wouldn't even be able to find it now. I mean, if I really tried, I'm not going to take the time to do it. But they literally says like all the Ravens are watching John. So I just think like, Bloodraven's just kind of peering around, seeing what's going on. But
yeah, he's getting his eyes on it. I'm seeing.
Well, I had one more because I know we talked a shitload about it the one time. Maester Pycelle's chain was brought up, and we were saying it was like kind of like tight to his neck and whatnot. It says here Maester Aemon's hung loosely.
Yeah, and what did it say about Maester Lewin's?
Maester Lewin's was a choker. So
yeah,
good catch, Jeff.
Makes sense.
So I just wanted to mention that just because I know we talked at length about it when we like the first time they mentioned Pycelle's being like long, like just linked up, right? Like he had crazy amount of links, and Pycelle had a choker, which we said like could be like 6 links, or Lewin had a choker.
All right, so that was Jeff's last thing. What about you, Glow? Do you have anything?
So Aemon says he's tested 3 times. A lot of people think John is a Zorohai who needs to temper his sword 3 times. Do you think John will be tested 3 times? You know, Ygritte. Why can't I think of my girl? Fuck. Val and Daenerys, or is there going to be some other test? Ygritte, Arya, somebody else?
This one with Rob?
Rob is one test, but...
Rob Ygritte, his sister Dany.
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting, Glow. I never really thought about it as like the things like being like tests like that. I mean, people do like think about that. Like that's kind of what they think of when they think of like a Zora high prophecies. They try and make it fit like that. But I never really thought about it for John, which I guess I should have because he's like a high guy for a Zora high. But yeah, I can't wait till Val comes in the story.
100%. This is a huge tangent. In Val's eyes, John and Val are like together. John stole Val. John stole her. He stole her from Mance Rayder's tent, kept her locked up, had a giant protecting her. Like, there's so many things like pointing to him stealing her. He stole Ygritte. And he stole
How did he steal Ygritte?
He kills the 2 Wildling brothers and then captures her and doesn't kill her.
Oh, all right. Yeah, true.
All right, so if that's all you guys had, I think the only thing I had that you guys didn't bring up already was this thing that I was actually already talking to Glow about it. Glow, do you want to explain it to Jeff? See if you understood what I was saying.
So it's talking about when John is younger at Bran's age, he has dreams of like valor, and then one of his dreams is doing something, and then Ned gives him ice. But then he's like, no bastard can wield a family sword. And Nelson's like, well, Blackfire's.
Yeah, the quote is, when John had been Bran's age, he had dreamed of doing great deeds, as boys always did. The details of the feats changed with every dreaming, but quite often he imagined saving his father's life. Afterward, Lord Eddard would declare that John had proved himself a true Stark and place ice in his hands. So this is basically just exactly what happened with the Blackfires, right? You had one son, Daemon the Good, who was like the rightful heir, the true blood, and he was supposed to be king, but you had another son who just like is the way better fighter, performs in tournaments, and does like kind of great deeds, as John's saying here, and gets bestowed the sword.
Yeah, but I mean, the brother didn't steal it. The father bestowed that sword upon him.
Yeah, but John doesn't dream of stealing the sword. He dreams of stealing Rob's birthright.
That's true.
Right? Later on, I think he thinks like, what kind of brother dreams of stealing his own brother's birthright? But yeah,
That's
he doesn't
true.
dream of stealing the sword. He just dreams of getting it bestowed upon him, exactly like happened with the Blackfires. He kind of knows that the sword brings with it the birthright, kind of like exactly the Blackfire problem.
Yeah, but how's that like a big point? Like,
I
who
mean, it's
cares
not
about
like
the young
John's going to be
Blackfire?
able to fight Rob for ice or like for the throne.
Oh, I don't think it's like a super important point. The main thing was just like, I think it's like a very interesting mirroring. I think that, so again, like we're pretty far through this book, but George R. R. Martin had to have known about the Blackfire rebellions by the time of writing this. I don't know if they're really mentioned at all in this book prior to this. I mean, they're not even mentioned here, but this is definitely 100%. He knew what he was doing when he wrote this, is kind of all I'm saying. And then to your guys' point, like if John does end up being a Targaryen, this kind of, I think, would hint to, oh, it's not going to be all smooth sailing with him and Dany, kind of like it was in the show. It's going to be much more I feel like maybe from the get-go, from their relationship, it'll be a conflict from, okay, we're on the same, like, because in the show, right, they're friends, they like are lovers almost, and then they have this conflict. I think it's almost going to be like, oh, we know each other, and from the get-go, you're a Targaryen, I'm a Targaryen. This isn't going to sit right. Or if that doesn't happen with Dany, at least with Fagon.
All right, way off topic. Why the fuck is the fifth book called A Dance of Dragons? There's no fights between any Targaryens. That's what the Dance of Dragons originally was. Why is the fifth book called that?
Fagin and Dany.
That could be it, but they're not fighting. They I don't know.
What Jeff said that was interesting because a lot of people think that the Dance of Dragons was a Blackfire thing. It wasn't. It took place before the Blackfires. It was a Targaryen civil war, though. It was just like a different succession squabble. It's between Aegon II and his half-sister Rhaenyra when their father, Viserys the First, dies. Right, so it's not the Blackfire thing at all. It's completely separate. But that being said, if you look at my theory of Dany's birth, where Dany is actually the child of Rhaegar and Lyanna, then Dance with Dragons would be Aegon Dany, and it would be in a direct mirroring of the first Dance with Dragons, which is between Aegon II and Rhaenyra. Here we would have Aegon VI and Daenerys, right? But again, same relation as the original, if you buy onto my theory that they're brother and half-sister. Note for the listeners, I did not bring this up the first time we talked about it, so neither of them are going to reply to that. But I will definitely bring up this point in the next John chapter, the fact that the whole Dance with Dragons comment, because I didn't think about that till just now. I'm going through fixing this recording.
I would think that'd be cool if they considered Jon a Blackfire, if he's a Targaryen, because he's a bastard. He's a bastard Targaryen.
Wait, and Blood Raven's technically a Blackfire, right?
Yeah.
Where does Bran fit
So
into it? Like,
I
there's
would
so
like that.
much cooler shit than actually Bran.
Well, yeah, but like there's theories that like Bloodraven is basically trying to lure Bran there so he can take over his body. Because like think about like that Varamir chapter at the beginning of Dance with Dragons, Varamir Sixskins, the skin changer. He talks about like how like when you die, you live your last life as as your second life or your last life or whatever in your animal. He lives it like he tries to take over that girl's body so that he can live it as like a person. So we know Bran does that to Hodor, right? So like when Bran dies, theoretically he could go into Hodor. Well, we also know that 1 in 1,000 people are wargs, and 1 in 1,000,000 people are green seers and wargs. So if Bloodraven is basically, and if it works in a way where like whoever you warg into at the end of your last, like at the end of your life, where you become your last life, you take on their abilities. Bloodraven would want to acquire someone with the same or better abilities than him, right? The same or better warging abilities, or the same or better green seeing abilities. So if he's able to identify, oh, this is Bran, let's get Bran to me. That way I can warg into him and just live out my life as Bran, right? The three-eyed raven, like theoretically, if you like subscribe to this, could have been around like an ancient entity, just like the original three-eyed raven. Like maybe the original one fought the White Walkers during the Long Night. any of that stuff, right? So that's kind of the thought here.
Yeah, that makes sense. But then Bran's not king.
Yeah, exactly. He would just end up like, well, he's the one his body's the one on the throne, but he's not really the king, right? He's just like the three-eyed raven's the real king. He just won his long battle, and again, like, is that something the three-eyed raven even really cares about? Is sitting on the Iron Throne? Like, it seems like he has more power where he is than the current king, you know? All right, but with that, that is all the major topics we talked about in the spoiler section. Again, like, I had to edit a ton out. The original files were each over an hour long, like our audio tracks. So the original spoiler section would have been probably about 50 minutes. Cut this down to maybe about 20. Again, I'm sorry about the missing audio, and thanks for listening if you made it this far through this chopped up spoiler section. Thanks, guys. We'll see you in the next one.
Don't forget to like, listen, share, comment.
If you comment, we'll talk about it. Do it.
Bye.
Peace. Night of Stark, full terrors.